Davis, thank you. I didn't know there were this many people in Davis. Wow. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for coming out tonight. Let me begin by thanking Tony Brusca, Kevin Seconds for their music, Kevin Lee Marvelli and Allison Julia Gobble for doing the national anthem, Nick Wallace and Kathy Kennedy, and a special thanks to Congresswoman Tulsi Gabbard. Tulsi is not only a veteran of the war in Iraq and is somebody who understands the true cost of war. She was there, she understands what war is about, and she and I will do everything possible to make sure this country does not again get into wars we never should have gotten into in the first place. We began this campaign a little over a year ago. And when we began, all of the experts looked at us and they said, well, you know, Bernie combs his hair very nicely. And he is a GQ kind of dress-up. But despite all of those attributes, his campaign will not go very far. Well, a year has come and gone. And here we are tonight in Davis, California. And on Tuesday, we are going to win the primary here in California. Now, we have the establishment very nervous. That's a good thing. Wall Street says they could live with Hillary Clinton, they could live with Donald Trump. And what has been absolutely extraordinary, and I'm very proud of this, is that in state after state, those states we win and even those states we lose, we have won the overwhelming majority of the votes of young people. Now, by young people, I don't just mean people 22 years of age. That is people 45 years of age or younger. Now, I know that when you're 21, 45 seems pretty old. But when you are 45, it will seem pretty young. But the point is, and this is a really important point that should give all of us hope and optimism about the future of this country, our vision of a nation based on social justice, economic justice, racial justice, environmental justice. That vision is the future of America. And there's nothing the establishment or the big money interest can do about it. We are the future, and our ideas will prevail. Now, this campaign is going to win because we have the courage to talk about the real issues facing this country. And I'm sorry to have to tell you this, but it's important to know it. The real issues facing America are not going to be on TV, and they're usually not going to be on the front pages of the newspapers. Corporate America is not interested in discussing the real issues for obviously self-conflicting reasons. But our job is to discuss those issues, to put them on the table, and to address them. Issue number one, we claim to be a democracy. But every day, our Democratic foundation is becoming weaker and weaker because billionaires increasingly are buying elections. Democracy is not a complicated process. It means everybody gets one vote. It does not mean that people with enormous sums of money can buy candidates and buy elections. And that is why we're going to overturn this disastrous Citizens United Supreme Court decision. And that is why we're going to move to public funding of elections. And that is why we're going to end Republican governors' efforts to suppress the vote. Our vision is a vibrant democracy with real debate, where ordinary people play an active role in shaping the future of this country. And quite frankly, that is not what is going on in this country right now. Now, let me ask you all a very simple question, and I'd like an honest answer. How many people here have ever attended a Democratic Party meeting? It's about 1%. Our job is to open up the Democratic Party to all of the people, not just wealthy campaign contributors. I want the Democratic Party to make a very clear choice. Are they on the side of working people? Are they on the side of the environment, of the children, of the seniors, of the poor, and of the sick? Or are they on the side of Wall Street and the big money interests? And if elected president, I will tell you very clearly what the answer is. We're going to open up the Democratic Party to all of the people. But it's not just a corrupt campaign finance system. It is not just a political system which keeps ordinary people outside of the decision-making processes. It is also a rigged economy. Many people don't know this, but America today is the wealthiest country in the history of the world. But people don't know it because almost all of the new income and new wealth is going to the people on top. America today has more income and wealth inequality than almost any major country on earth. In America today, listen to this, the top 1/10 of 1% now owns almost as much wealth as the bottom 90%. The 20 wealthiest people in this country, 20 people own more wealth than the bottom half of America, 150 million people. Over the last 25 years, there has been a massive transfer of wealth from the pockets of middle-income and working families to the top 1/10 of 1%, a group that has seen a doubling of the percentage of wealth they own. Bottom line is the middle class continues to shrink, and shrink, while the very wealthy become richer, and richer. Today in America, you've got millions of families where mom is working 40 hours a week, dad is working 40 hours a week, and the kids are working hard, and yet 58% of all new income generated today is going to the top 1%. A rigged economy is when CEOs making 40 million, 50 million a year work overtime to cut the wages and health care and pensions of their workers. A rigged economy is when profitable corporations shut down plants in America so they don't have to pay workers here a living wage and move to China and other low-wage countries. A rigged economy is when veterans who have put their lives on the line to defend us are sleeping out on the street. A rigged economy is when we have seen in recent years a proliferation of millionaires and billionaires, and yet we have the highest rate of childhood poverty of almost any major country on earth. Brothers and sisters, our job together is to create an economy that works for all of us, not just the 1%. But it is not just a corrupt campaign finance system that we're going to have to take on. It's not just a rigged economy in which the very rich get richer and almost everybody else gets poorer. It is also a broken criminal justice system. And here is a truth. It is not a pleasant truth. It's not a truth that anybody here should be proud of, but it is the truth. And that is that in America today, we have more people in jail right now than any other country on earth. Think about it. China is a communist authoritarian nation 4 times our size, and we have more people in jail than does China. And the people in jail, as you all know, are disproportionately African American, Latino, and Native Americans. This is a national disgrace, and together we are going to end that. And we're going to end it by understanding why we have more people in jail and the ways to end that international embarrassment. And for a start, let me mention to you something that we do not hear a whole lot about. And that is that in inner cities throughout this country and in rural communities, poor rural communities, the unemployment rate for young people, high school graduates, is frequently 30, 40, 50%. Kids graduate high school and they want to get out in the world, stand up on their own 2 feet, but they cannot find a job. And when you don't have a job and when you start hanging out on street corners, bad things happen. And that is why I believe that we must invest in our young people in jobs and education. And not in jails and incarceration. In recent years here in California, but all over this country, we have been busy building jails. We have built jails, but not colleges. It's time to reverse that trend. It is time to understand that it costs less money to send a young person to the University of California than to send him to jail. This campaign is about thinking outside of the box, about not accepting the status quo, about going beyond the options that corporate media give us. And this campaign is about demanding and fighting to make certain that we have the best educated population in the world, not more people in jail than any other country. I want our young people on the job or in school, not rotting in a jail cell. But when we talk about criminal justice, it is not just high youth unemployment rates, it is also the need to take a look at local police departments throughout this country. I was a mayor in Burlington, Vermont for 8 years, and I worked closely with my police department. I've worked with police officers all over the country. The average police officer is honest, hardworking, and has a very difficult job. But what we should be clear about is that, like any other public official, if a police officer breaks the law, that officer must be held accountable. We must demilitarize local police departments all across the country. We must make local police departments look like the diversity of the communities they represent. We must end corporate ownership of prisons and detention centers. We must create a national law enforcement culture which says that lethal force, the killing of somebody, is the last option, not the first option. We must rethink the so-called war on drugs. Turns out that over the last 30 years, millions of Americans have received police records, criminal records, for possession of marijuana. And if you are a 19-year-old kid applying for a job and your prospective employer asks you if you've ever been arrested, that criminal record can cost you a job opportunity. Right now, under the Federal Controlled Substance Act, this campaign is listening to the African American community. And they are asking me, how does it happen that we could spend trillions of dollars, trillions, fighting a war in Iraq we never should have gotten into, while at the same time we supposedly do not have the money to rebuild crumbling inner cities throughout this country. I have been to Flint, Michigan, and talked to mothers whose children were poisoned by lead in the water. I have been to Detroit, Michigan, and talked to parents whose kids are in a school system on the verge of fiscal collapse. I have been to Baltimore, Maryland, where tens of thousands of people are addicted to heroin and there is no treatment available to them. I have been to parts of West Virginia, McDowell County, where the life expectancy of people there are 18 years lower than 6 hours away in Fairfax, Virginia. And here is a truth that we don't talk about in America. You don't hear the word poverty mentioned in the corporate media. You very rarely hear it mentioned on the floors of the House or the Senate. But we got 47 million people in this country living in poverty. Poverty is not just about not having a big flat screen TV or going to a fancy restaurant. Poverty is a death sentence. People who are poor live under enormous stress. They are wondering how they're going to feed their kids tomorrow, how they're going to pay the electric bill, how they're going to put gas in the car to get to work. knowing that if they don't get to work, they're going to lose their jobs and their family will be shattered. This is America. Poor people should not be experiencing a decline in their life expectancy. Children should not be denied the health care that they need. And together we are going to change our national priorities. No, we're not going to be rebuilding communities in Iraq and Afghanistan. We'll be rebuilding them here in the United States of America. And when we talk about a people who have been impoverished, who have been beaten down, who have been discriminated against, we're talking about the Native American community in this country. All of you know that from before this country became a country, when the first settlers came here, the Native American people were lied to, they were cheated, and the treaties they negotiated were abrogated. And yet we owe the Native American people a debt of gratitude that we can never, ever fully repay. They have enriched our culture in enormously important ways, and among many other gifts that they have given us is the understanding, the profound understanding, that as human beings, we are part of nature. We must live with nature. And that if we continue to destroy nature, we are ultimately destroying the human species. And yet today, Native American people are living in many cases in extreme poverty, high unemployment rates, kids not getting a good education, inadequate health care. Together, we will make fundamental changes in the relationship of the federal government to the Native American people. Now, I know that my good friend, Donald Trump, I know that Donald has come to California to impart some incredible wisdom to the people of the state. You see, the people of California perceived that there was a drought here. And Donald has come to tell you that you're wrong. You thought there was a drought, but Donald, who has studied this issue intensively for decades, has reached the conclusion there is no drought. Thank you, Donald, for that observation. And on top of that, the Donald has also, again, after years of intensive study, being one of the great meteorologists in the world, has concluded that climate change is a hoax. We thank Donald for those brilliant observations. But I must say to Donald and everybody else that I am a member of the U.S. Senate Committee on the Environment. And I have talked to scientists all over this country and all over the world. And what they say in an almost unanimous voice is that climate change is real, it is caused by human activity, it is already doing devastating harm in the United States, here in California, and all over the world. And what the scientists also tell us is if we do not get our act together in a very short period of time, if we do not boldly transform our energy system away from fossil fuel to energy efficiency and sustainable energy, the current problems will become much, much worse. The planet will continue to warm, more drought, more floods, more extreme weather disturbances, more acidification of the oceans, more rising sea level, more international conflict as people throughout the world fight over limited natural resources. If there is a mission that the young generation has today, it is to lead this world in saving the planet. It is to tell the fossil fuel industry that their short-term profits are not more important than the future of this planet. We have, as custodians of the world, we have an enormously responsible job to do. We are custodians of this planet, and we must leave this planet in a way that is healthy and habitable to future generations. And that is why I've introduced the most comprehensive climate change legislation in the history of the Senate, which calls for, among many other things, a tax on carbon. And tonight, I urge Secretary Clinton to reverse her position to support a tax on carbon, because we need bold action now to take on the fossil fuel industry. And there's another issue out there which has to do with this. All over the world and in this country, and I have to tell you, since I've been in California now for the last week or two, and I've talked to a lot of people, I did not know, I must confess this, that here in California, there are tens of thousands of homes where the water that comes out of the tap is laden with toxins and is undrinkable. Didn't know that. People in America should be able to drink the water that comes out of their faucet. And that is why I believe that now is the time to end fracking in this country. And once again, I urge Secretary Clinton to change her view, join me in ending fracking and making certain that the water supply and the aquifers of this country remain clean and healthy. Let me tell you what I have told people throughout my entire political life, in that I believe from the deepest part of my soul that health care is a right of all people, not a privilege.